Welcome back to the Double Swing. It's been a rough and tumble weekend with a lot of Counter-Strike played. Two of our previews that now need recapping, and, well, quickly, I'm going to go through that because it is miserable. The outlook for me, at least after this series of events. But yes, we will be joined by the EternalJay. We will be previewing ESL Pro League Stage 1. And before we get into that, as promised, Fisher Playground 2 went dreadfully for me. I had 1 point. Falcons making a semi-final run. That's it. Not even Aurora salvaging a single point. Just disappointment all around. Yumi, the Mongols, Astralis, both scoring. Getting you 3 points. And then our guest, Tea Time, been rather braggadocious today on Twitter, and yet that is for a man who went 1 of 4 in his picks. Still, his one pick that managed to hit did win the event, so he got 3 points out of it. But yeah, big talk for a man who went 1 for 4. Anyway, down to the second event we did last week, which was Star Ladder. I picked Na'Vi with first pick. Shocker, they won. Thank the heavens. So that's 3 points right there. NIP, your pick, Yumi, did finish second and grabbed you at 2 points. And yes, no guest. So the viewers who decided not to put their money where their mouth is are going to get given a standard just fill out number rather than any real calculation because we can't make one. So yeah, that's how the weekend went. Definitely not 1,000,000 points. 2 would be already overly generous. 1, maybe too little, but we don't do half, so
let's not inflate our economy here on a podcast. You know, the points don't matter, but they do, actually.
They do to us. They don't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but they kind of do just between the two of us. But yes, Jay, thank you for joining us again. This is your second time on the show. The first time as an actual guest and not like a replacement co-host, I guessed. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. It must have been a rough weekend for you, and probably a rough week as well, considering that you've got me back. So you are scraping the bottom of the barrel once again. Like, you can just tell that everyone else is busy when I'm coming up on the show here. I remember last time as well, like, it was just like I did pretty poorly, if I remember correctly. We were doing the Blast Wild Finals, Full Finals, well, one of those, like, you know, Blast lands from the old Premier format. So I remember not doing too well at that one either. So I'm looking forward to also not doing well today either, and giving you all a bunch of terrible opinions so I can piss some people off.
It might have been, was it Blast Showdown?
No, because we were picking, because we picked, like, I think 8 teams between us. So I think it was actually like a proper land thing. I think
it was the World Final,
field. Yeah, so it was like even one of the 8 team lands.
Just looking through the times where we would have had more people on, but obviously we didn't because Yumi wasn't around, and the one person who was replacing Yumi did terribly. Blast World Final, yes, you did go 1 for 4 in your picks, not great. Some big names missing out as well. I'm looking at the names who didn't score you anything. Na'Vi, Vitality. I mean, Liquid's a classic for missing out, but still. Yeah, you know things are dire when the only team that gets you any points is Astralis.
I think I got memed on for that one as well, actually.
Deservedly so. I think there was definitely an opportunity for you to do better in that one. But hey, redeem yourself. Today, you do have another opportunity. We haven't actually discussed, Yumi, where we're going to fit in. Jay has volunteered to go second. So I got first pick at Star Ladder.
Yeah, you did go first in the last show, so I guess I could, but
I'll let you choose, because technically going second at Star Ladder was worse. Because it wasn't a three picker event, you know?
Yeah, I think I'll stick with first. I'll stick with first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Let's get right into it. Yumi, first pick. The entire board is open to you. Who do you like the look of?
I am just going to punch this in immediately because I sit atop my high horse as the one that was right when everyone doubted them when they made the roster move. I'm going with Furia first. I'm going with them as the highest ranked team. They made the finals of Fisher. Not only made the finals, they won the event. Yeah. But the move has worked. The Molodoy Yakindar double import into South American waters has worked wonders, and it's cool because, like, the longer this move has, the longer that this team has had to develop, the more it's made sense what they were doing, and bringing in Yakindar, who can speak English and Russian, as well as bringing in a Molodoy who hasn't really communicated in English before, and having that liaison type character, someone that is actually gravitated towards leadership as well, does create a small dynamic where Fallen is still the captain of the ship, but Yakindar is sort of like a pseudo captain of himself and Molodoy to a certain degree, because until Molodoy's fluency is high enough, there is a certain level of communication that Yakindar can have, even just on that level. But it's just cool to watch a role-based move happen in an ecosystem where there's a lot of role cells out there. I'm actually not one of them particularly, but when teams make good pragmatic role moves on players that aren't necessarily hyped up, we actually don't appreciate those types of moves that much. I think the circuit is we gravitate so much towards like anchor players or support players or oh, this guy's an entry player, and then they see them get moved up into a higher roster and they think, wait a second, these roles don't make any sense. And instead of us focusing in on teams that desperately need role acquisitions, we focus on teams that don't necessarily have those same roles to occupy, and we just go, these roles don't make any sense. So when Furia made their moves, it was clear that there was a direction. It was clear as well. It was pragmatic. If Moldoy didn't work, they still picked up a very high level prospect from the tier 2 scene that they could then sell to other teams if they needed to. I like what Furia was doing from the start, and I'm just glad it's worked out here because it's a sign to other teams that listen, when everybody else is clamoring and waiting for the off season to make their roster moves, you can make it actually during the season and have it work out for you in the next season if you don't see your prospects immediately working out.
Yeah, Jay, I don't know about you. I watched a bit of Moldoy when he was not on Furia. I watched him on Amcal. I saw him on, I always forget what the team name was before then, because they were just a team that was then just moved on to Amcal rather than, something that Amcal built up. What was your take on him when he's initially signed? Like, when he's just a tier 3 kid, no top 50 maps. Did you think he'd work out this well?
I think my reaction to Moldoy's signing was the same reaction to pretty much everybody else in the Twitter thread. It's just like, what the hell? Like, I was caught very off guard with this one because he wasn't on my radar, honestly. Like, I wasn't really a fan of what Amcal were doing. I thought that they weren't competing at a level that was sufficient to impress anybody, and I kind of did write Moldoy off. Maybe that was a mistake on my part in that respect, but just the number of times that he faced up against tier 2, high tier 2, tier 1.5 teams, there was very few and far opportunities between them, and credit to him for obviously performing in those kind of matches, but there just wasn't enough of a sample size for me to look at him and say this is a move that's going to do well. I thought that it was very much. It was kind of like what Liquid did with Ultimate, in the sense that he was also not competing at the highest end of tier 2 as well, and they bring him in and he kind of does well for a little bit. I think the next big concern for Furia is, are they going to go down the same route as what Liquid did and not have him improve and not have Moldoy continue to be an MVP star? Although, again, I think that the showing that they had during Fisher Playground was certainly a positive for him. I will say that Furia were on one of my priority picks for coming into this show, because they did look very impressive during Fisher. I think that they have an opportunity to continue that with the next few tournaments that they'll attend. So I respect the notion. I didn't think that there was going to be much of this, honestly. I think the fact that they've done that, it definitely exceeded my expectations for Furia.
Yeah, for me, it was like the interesting part I always find is people comparing different AWP moves, and Ultimate, I think, is a very different kettle of fish. Like, because for me, that's a move that literally comes out of nowhere. I don't have a great deal of, high-level opposition faced. I don't have even particularly gaudy numbers to really be impressed by. He just kind of gets picked up out of nowhere. And initially, you'll remember those first couple of events, he's farming people. He actually had really great fragging impact. He looked like the real deal. And eventually it faded when people realized he's just sitting in very common spots and repeaking. So what? Anyone can deal with this. Eventually it kind of stagnated, fell apart, and he's just never really recaptured that sort of spark. Moldoy was dominating. Sure, it was a weak level of opposition. We all had our concerns. Myself especially, I had bigger concerns, especially about his playstyle, the way he played. I've gone through those a few times on these shows, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But what really has happened is that they have worked around it, integrated him, and now they just have a star AWPer who is more than likely the Rookie of the Year, more than likely going to be in the conversation for AWPer of the Year. And it's just fantastic. And I think, yes, Yumi's correct. The part we always overlook, and that always needs to be given more credit, more attention, is the Yekindar part of the move. I know you like to bring that up a lot. The role's making more sense when you have an aggressive player who knows how to call his own number, who helps, integrate that AWPer, and on top of that, just delivers the frags, just hits the shots. He's been invaluable. Furia look amazing. Are they the second best team in the world, as VRS would have you believe? I don't think so. But they are definitely one of the top contenders for the entirety of Pro League in terms of making a run. They're certainly making it out of Stage 1. And, yeah, That's very positive. All very positive. I want to be negative quickly. They're facing HOTU. That's one of the more upsettable game ones, I guess. Like, I guess if I had to be as negative as I can be about this pick, there it is.
On LAN? I don't know. I'm not so
They got
convinced.
one win at Astana, and that was with a slightly worse roster. So.
I don't know about that one, mate. I don't put a lot of stock in the Astana run, because if you just take a look at exactly what it is they did, they beat GamerLegion, who made a roster change immediately after the fact. So the fact that that they've made that change, I think, is an indication that things were not working within that team. And then they took the map off of Aurora at Astana, who I think actually did have a little bit of a rough time, even if they did finish third. I think their matches probably were a little bit closer than what they should have done. And they also lost a big, which is a statement in and of itself. So actually, I don't think that Astana run is quite as special as everyone makes it out to be. It's certainly above expectation, because our expectation of HOTU is 0. So I'm with Yumi on this one. I don't think that's quite as much of a losable game for Furia as you seem to make it out to be.
I'm just saying, there's two, like, in terms of the teams we have here in the favourites category, there are two who clearly are the cream of the crop. Yeah. There's no conversation. It's Furia G2, right? The rest of them, far more questionable as teams. They're not in the conversations for making top 4s, winning events. Both Furia and G2 have recently. G2 face Rooster, I'm just saying, that's an easier game. That's a far easier game. I wouldn't quite bet all my life savings on it, just because the gods don't like to be tempted in that way. But at the same time, I would bet close to my entirety of my life savings on G2 winning that matchup. Furia HOTU, standard size bet, please. Standard size bet. I'm not going close to that one. That's my problem with it. That's my vibe, my energy. Jay, you pretty much have an empty board as well. You can go anywhere you want, except Furia. Oh no, you still have some great options left. Who do you like the look of?
See, I see, because I was really hoping that Yumi would pick Furia, because now I get to pick G2. So that's the easy option right there. If we're going to go with the favourites, then that's an easy sort of way to just sort of get started from my part of things. Because look, you're right. Like, there are two teams that are very much a cut above the rest, and those are the two squads that are in question for stage number 1. I think G2 have a bit of a better chance of going deeper into the tournament than Furia on the average. Furia are right on the high of the hype of the momentum that they just got off Fisher Playground, but G2, they've looked incredibly good recently, and I have to say that that's another situation that I wasn't expecting out of them, considering that they lost 2 of the greatest players to ever touch the game earlier on this year and last year. So, like, I have to say that I'm impressed with G2's rebuild. The Blast win was also rather recent, and they've got that under their belt. I think the pickup for Matties was a no-brainer. Heavy God's been also very dominant in his performances. And I think that G2 are going to average out a little bit better than Furia in the longer term. I think that they've just got some very solid pieces that are going to just continue to build upon themselves as time goes on throughout the course of the year. I'm not sure how the major's going to look, because it's a little bit unpredictable in that sense. But for this event, I think that they can go pretty easily 3-0 in the Swiss.
Yeah, 3-0 would be comfortable. Yumi, we saw this team also win a big event recently. Which run do you think was more convincing? Which one was actually the more impressive title lift?
What, G2's win, or
over G2's win versus Furia's win? Like, those two wins, which one did you actually take more from? Like, which one built more belief in the respective teams, really?
I think it's easier to say London was a bigger event, mainly just from the perspective of this was earlier in the calendar, where we're still riding off the high of Vitality as the best team in the world and then making it to the final. But this is also post Cologne, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I get my timelines all confused with the events, but yeah, it's also post Cologne, where we're like, oh, maybe they're not the best team, and then they make it to a final, and they are quite tested by G2. I think it's also just the LAN environment at London seemed more intense than in Fisher, really. Like, Fisher is primarily a studio LAN, and then sort of opened up to an audience and wasn't necessarily the biggest of venues. I would lean it towards London being the more impressive win, just based on the teams that ended up in the top 8. But I think Furia's final was closer based on the form of the Mongols and Furia at the time. So I think, if I'm thinking about the run up to the finals, G2's, I think, is more impressive. But I think the actual final, maybe not, based on where the teams are just in terms of like power ranking at the time.
Okay. But basically, the reason I bring that up is, for me, I see G2 beat Vitality. Furia don't go through the same sort of level of test, I guess. Just in terms of, on paper, Furia beating Mongols versus G2 beating Vitality. I'm just seeing where your take is in terms of you preferred Furia. Like, what is it you don't like necessarily about G2? What is it you've not seen from them?
It's less that I don't like them. I think what's weird about G2 is, I just had this long tirade about like, oh, appreciate roll moves and blah, blah, blah. The G2 move makes sense in hindsight, and it makes sense with how the things have formed out with, Saw essentially being the brain and overhauling the tactical nature of this roster. But it is very firepower front end loaded. And, putting calling reliance on someone like Hunter, who had been calling CT sides for a fair amount of time on G2, even when Snax was there. But their CT sides looked fucking awful when Snax was there. And in the transition period, now, I wasn't expecting their CT sides to improve with Saw immediately, and I wasn't expecting their T sides to look better as well. So, I think the underrated aspect for me for G2, and maybe where I have to catch myself with a bit of whiplash, is, hey, Saw is the X factor to this team, and is what has changed this team to make sense in a way, because there's a lot of reasons to not like the move from an on paper prior to seeing any results standpoint. Some Pius isn't in the best form. Mattis was impressive, but also would go missing still fairly frequently under Fnatic, and you'd always ask for him to do more, even though he was already doing a lot on that Fnatic roster. And the three pieces of G2 didn't seem like they necessarily meshed well together in terms of who was doing what, who was the anchor, like who was going to be aggressive in mid-rounds, who was going to, like what the hierarchy within the team seemed to be. It just seemed a little cobbled together. But now it's a bit more streamlined, and I can't knock any of that. I need to be further convinced by G2 that this isn't just early other teams underestimating and not expecting the shift like I didn't expect the shift. Because I think there's reasons to underestimate them.
Okay. Right. Oh, well, interesting explanation. As someone who doesn't get a chance to pick either of the two biggest favorites, just curious, just gonna see you two pick apart each other's picks, see who likes which one better secretly after we actually reason it out. But no, I'm a bit... I'm fascinated by G2, just because, I thought the limiting factor would be you have no real AWPer, you'd be far too rifle reliant, you'd really struggle in that sense to change up your early rounds to be something other than... Malb swing. There's no other outlet to find those early fights, and there still is a fair bit of that. But Sunpice hasn't actually been that bad. And then on the other side of things, Matisse has switched his role back away from the Fnatic Matisse, who's basically Malb's MD, to the Matisse of Sampi, who's just more of this incredibly aggressive lurk, more of the Insanian MIBR type of aggressive player than Malb's on this G2, but also prior on M80 and every other roster he's ever played with. He's been a full W key type, aggressor. So I think G2 are in a really fun place right now in terms of especially how you can use those players. That's always my most, one of the most fun dynamics to look at in terms of this sort of, hyper aggro here and aggro lurk there. You don't know which side of that's going to come clobbering you. They could hit you with pace immediately with their regular entry. They can hit you with a bit of fake pace and then bang, out of, let's say on Inferno, out of Boiler, just this guy, this freak, this demon of Matisse just comes out with one flashbang and then three of you are dead. It's a really fun team to watch for me right now. I'm liking that especially they have a home map. They have a map they can pick, and I think near enough beat anyone right now in Inferno. Like, that's a map they're just really strong at. It's the best map for their T-side calls in terms of mid-rounds especially. That's just noticeably so much better. Yeah, G2 are a very fun team. I still think they're going to be happy. Easy favourites if I got to pick them. 3-0 just seems most likely for these two teams. Anything less than that would be by itself an upset. So yeah, on to my picks. I have two back-to-back, and the two best favourites are gone. Misery is what I call that, because now I have to look towards... either I can pick some favourites that are not optimal, or I can go straight to the underdogs. And I feel like in the underdogs, there's one underdog that's impressed me in particular, that already the last time I picked them as an underdog made me... not that many points, but the fact that it got me any points was the shock. It was the last pick of the show. I am going with M80 as my underdog pick. They are the highest seed. of the underdogs, at least by our rating system. VRS would have you believe they are worse than NRG. The basis for that being imagination, I guess.
One win on LAN, that's it. That's the only reason why they were ranked above. I did the mathematics before we went live. It's a joke. It really is bad.
It is a sham. And look, they do start with a bit of a type of speed bump team in Virtus Pro who are terrible and yet somehow drag everyone down into the mud with them and occasionally win, which is always miserable to watch, but at least I think M80 is still favoured in that game. They're a team who play off the back of really strong individuals in very specific ways. Like, Lake is going to want to be aggressive. They've found ways to enable that, to set that up. Hext is really composed and calm in late rounds. Like, who'd have thought he's a NA player known for making good decisions now? That's the reality we're in, but that is pretty awesome. I mean, that is Hext's kind of calling card right now. He was super clutch in London, or online then in London. He was generally very productive in mid to late rounds on his lurks, on just clean-up duty. I think Hext is actually a pretty fun player to watch right now in terms of being impressive, young, and not just traditionally formed into these star rifle roles we expect. He's not just trading in terms of being in the pack. He's not just an openings monster who's just constantly flashed for in every single brawl and engagement. He's actually playing with some modicum of control, and there's some measuredness about his game that I really like. On top of that, they still have one of the best young IGLs in the scene in Sin. They've got an Orphan Slacks who's, finding his feet in real CS, not just tier 3 German play. It's great to watch. They're a fun team. I haven't even touched on their final North American in Swisher, but I feel like I need to. Like, Swisher's become less of a story now. It used to be a whole thing. We talk about Swisher and Rec, which one can play well, do we need to replace one? At this point, they did that a long time ago, and Swisher can just fade into the background as everyone else continues to step up and deliver the wins. I think M80 are in a great place right now, and I think this is their time to really kick on and show that they are a legitimately tier 1.5 team, not just a tier 2 NA side who occasionally gets to show up. No, they played a real LAN. They played some really good teams. They played great CS. I'm sure they're going to do it again. Shout out to Def on the coaching job. This is, for me, the value pick of these underdogs.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to go with either the two North American sides, it certainly would have to be M80. Actually, I put together like a little, I sort of ordered all the teams in where I think they should fit in at top 8 and bottom 8. And M80 did actually just make it into the top 8 for me. And I think that you are onto something good with Hext. I think he's been having some great performances. I think one of the things, though, is that there's a lot of players that have great performances on this team. I've been doing this, if you go on HLTV pages after a match and you've got that new All-Stars app that's showing you all the highlights, if you want to get like a quick and dirty eye test done for a player or two, then you can just watch those clips and get like a rough idea as to how well that they've been doing mechanically. And it's just the sharpness on a lot of the M80 players during those moments. It's obviously nothing compared to an actual demo review, but if you just want to get like a quick sort of first impression, I've been really, really liking sort of the quality of the fundamentals from everybody, I think, on the M80 side. I think that they've had some struggles during the international tournaments that they play, but they've also been earning their spots rather well. And I think that they are in a very good spot coming into Pro League. I think that they're going to have a very good Swiss stage. I think they should make it into the second stage as well. I think that there's a lot of untapped potential behind M80 at the moment.
I would echo the sentiment, and I think what feeds into your usage of the All-Star highlight system actually does highlight that M80, and I've always seen them as this type of team, but when they get into like late round post-plant situations, everyone actually can just be great and deliver multi-kill moments. I think when I look at this team, I don't see anyone as a deficit in a clutch or in a late round. I actually do think most of them can pull their weight. It is just sporadic. And I think, the games that they lose, it's because they don't get production in those late rounds, or they lose a post plant they shouldn't. And that does happen with this team a fair amount. But I'd say on average, like when a player is falling behind, another one is often stepping up. And that has in Blast, it seemed to be that was a lot to do with Hext and Swisher, and I really have been impressed with I'm kind of with you. I think Hext actually is probably the most impressive piece lately, just in terms of some of the choices he's making in these mid rounds and actually pushing the limits of what he could do in that moment. I think a great example is that highlight he got against VP, he electronic, and that to me is great to see from North American players actually kind of milking an opportunity. Sometimes I think I've seen them recognize that they have flanks and just pull the trigger immediately, mainly because they always see themselves on the back foot. But I think there's a real confidence to this M80 as of late, and I'd say that's been building over the past year if I'm being realistic. But they've made some big strides in my opinion as well.
Yeah, a lot of progress, and that's something they needed to do. You know, being North America's, you know, basically when they had Miles and Dio, it was like maybe they're the third best North American team, and that was a bit of an indictment, really, not only on just them, but at times the state of the scene, but quite importantly, just on them. If they couldn't climb out of that sort of hellhole, like, where would they make it to? Like, they couldn't be better in North America. And they have struggled their way out to here. Like, it wasn't an easy road. They didn't attend some cheap LAN, farm some wins, and then get catapulted up. They actually did slowly grind through all the open qualies, all the other nonsense, just to make it to Blast. Then when they attended, yeah, they really showed up. They really performed well and showed off that those reps they had with Hex that they built up all over the sort of year were legit. They were real. So that's been really impressive to watch. Really fun. That's probably the best of it, though. That's the best of it. I now need to pick a team to go with M80. And now in the underdogs, there's some rosters I'm interested in talking about, but there's not so many that I'm really loving having as my pick right now.
You could definitely still pick a favorite, you know? I mean,
I can. It's just looking at the favorites. It's like, do I put my faith in the no-flaw 3D Max? Do I put my faith in the ever frustrating and for some reason personally disappointing GamerLegion? Do I like Virtus Pro? No. Do I want to believe in Heroic being carried by Nilo? That's tough. Legacy.
You've got a very bad
mark,
position because there's just so many caveats with the top 8 teams, and it's like you have to. There's no solid, definitive, easy pick to make in the favorites department. So by going
really
third, by letting YouM3 pick first, you have actually screwed yourself on the format, I'm afraid.
Unfortunately, though, I do think there's one pick that I might be stealing from YouM3 here. If I didn't take this one, I'm sure he'd be leaping at the opportunity to take this team. And
I know exactly who you're going for as well.
You do you?
I think so.
Do you think I'm picking Astralis?
Yes, I do actually think that.
Am.
Yeah,
because I am. I believe in Hooksy. I believe now in Stare. I've seen it. I questioned it the last time we talked about this team. I was like, yeah, I now have to believe Stare is going to carry this team. Like, that's sure. I guess he could put up better numbers in star roles, but can he carry the team? Magisk is joining, and now he's got to do even more. Didn't want to believe it, and they made playoffs at Playground, like at the expense of the team I believed in over them in GamerLegion, like straight up. So I kind of have to. This is a makeup pick. You know how refs in sports are often accused of making makeup calls. You know, they got that one wrong, so next time they give you a lenient sort of whistle. This is kind of that. This is me going, all right, fair enough. Shake your hands. You guys proved me wrong. Astralis turns out a good IGL, players in good roles, setting up a player who has talent. Just kind of works. It just kind of works. And yeah, Stare's been able to deliver huge numbers. At Playground, they also got a solid Yabby. Like, I don't think it's fair to say that he was like super amazing elite, but a solid Yabby, which is more than enough as a playmaker. And then a Device that didn't disappoint and massively underperform. Like, that's been one of the key narratives. Is Device going to fall off the face of the earth? At this event, he's had a lot of ups and a lot of downs. This event was fairly up. Very strong, and that allowed them to make that playoff berth. Sure, they go down 2-0 to the eventual champions in Furia, but the wins they got before then, whilst not against world beaters, convinced me that in this field, they're going to be fine. They beat GamerLegion, they beat Legacy, and they beat Virtus Pro. Those are all in the favourite section of this bracket. No way I have them as underdogs going against the underdogs after I see that. So yes, Astralis for me is a logical pick. It's a cold, calculated pick. Very little sort of heart and, you know, personal flavour in this, because I've just not been a big Astralis guy of late, but I have to reluctantly pick them. They do make sense. They aren't going to just bottom out and lose to literally everyone like 3D Max are capable of. I like this pick. Jay, YouM3's a fan of this team. Are you?
I'm a bit in and out, honestly, on Astralis. Like I respect the grind back that the comeback that they've sort of made happen in the face of almost certain doom. Like I looked at a HOTU move and I thought well, this is just to pad for time because the organization's in trouble, it's going to sell, and you've got no other better options that you can afford. So this is just what you have to do just to fill numbers until someone else can take over and make it their problem. I will say that obviously I think HOTU's done well in that particular role. My main issue with picking Astralis into this event is Magisk, because he's obviously relatively new. He's had that event at Fissure, didn't exactly look amazing, and off the back of his time in Falcons wasn't exactly amazing either. I'm hoping we can get back to pure breed mages because, again, I've been watching some of the matches and he does look like he's got the mechanical fundamentals still, but just the consistency isn't there for me. And I think that that's where the whole Astralis campaign can really come undone at times. I think if you can find consistency, then you're right, they've got a core that they can work with. But until that happens, I think that they probably should still make it out of the Swiss stage, but like I'm very cautiously optimistic that should end up being the case here.
I wanted to believe in Magisk. I wanted to, mainly from the perspective of Stown sometimes just makes bad choices. And I was expecting Magisk to do better. Now, his choices, if I take them in a vacuum, are still fine. Like when I'm seeing him in like traditional anchor roles and he's able to play in the vacuum, he is making fine choices. I don't agree that mechanically he's all there. You know, you get flashes in games where he'll have this miraculous triple kill. There's a certain level of
that's more what I was trying to get at, really. Like you see those moments where it's like, oh, okay, he's still got it, but then everything else is where you start to fall down on terms of
he's still gotten a bit of that like Astralis bullshit. Like he can pull off a round or two out of nowhere and then do fuck all for the rest of the game. It's an improvement. I would say I would have picked this Astralis team, and I have valued them quite heavily because of mainly HooXi and Stare and what they're doing. And you know, I thought Device was fine. I thought Yabi was fine. It is this 5th position. I just don't know who they could pick up that is better than Magisk, that doesn't demand more resources away from other pieces. I know we had Tea Time on the show before, and he's like, why don't they just pick up Blame F? I don't think that's a solution. I genuinely think that would be more of a problem than a solution. So for now, Magisk is going to have to do. But I do think if this is something that continues for the rest of the season, you are going to have to look at lower level Danish teams and see if there's anyone you can promote or bring up, or even your own like academy system. I don't know if Astralis are still running the Astralis talent thing. Yeah, that's gone.
It's still there. They're just dreadful as they've always been because Astralis don't seem to try with their academy. Yeah. It's like, do they not pay? Because there's loads of Danish youngsters playing on other academies, playing on smaller orgs. It's just, I guess, Astralis Academy just refuses to pay anyone or something, because no one whose quality stays there or ends up there in the first place. It's mad how poorly that thing is done.
Right. There just needs to be something. Like, the Danish scene cannot be totally devoid of talent. Like, find somebody on Faceit. I do not care. They will need to find somebody eventually if this is going to continue for the rest of the season. Yeah. You know, maybe Magisk can actually bounce back and integrate better. You know, this is only one real event, so it's not a total indictment on this character, but he wasn't that impressive on the Falcons either, so it's a little bit of a rough period for him individually, because if he doesn't pick it up, I think he has to expect that that's probably what's coming.
Yeah, he does. Look, I just quickly whipped out the old check HLTV stats, filter by Danish flag. You know, that trick to find new talents. Yeah, obviously it's not full of names that have really picked up a lot of attention, but there are some players, notably the ones we kind of talked about last time we talked about Astralis and who could be in the Magisk slot. My complaint that this is just so unimaginative that it must have been just because he's free. You know, you could have gone with someone off of that ecstatic team. Not every single one of the good riflers on that team needs everything, you know, set up for them. Not everyone is. Well, I think Anlil is the one they set up the most heavily. I think Syra is kind of the one you could maybe depend on to just like play as an anchor and be a little more of a role player. Nut or Pingu, whatever you want to call him. Like, he's also kind of in that boat for me, where it's like he's not the star of the team, so I could see him potentially fitting into a roster like Astralis's. But I just think they literally went for Magic on a free, and it just kind of makes sense. You know, it just does kind of make sense. I think it's a fair move as far as roles, a fair move as far as, you know, bringing in some experience to allow the young guys to shine. But it, yeah, can't be your first choice. Like, if you had all the money in the world, I don't think that's the roster move that even they would have gone for.
Yeah, like, real talk, what about Xiphon? What about that guy?
Today is not the day to suggest Xiphon after that best of 5 he played. Oh, sorry. In many other ways, yes, on any other day, rather, we could have had that conversation. I'm open to it, always. I do think he's a fairly strong mechanical player, which by Danish standards is actually impressive. Like, he's right up there with the best Danish aimers. It's a shame Denmark is devoid of aim right now, but he's certainly a talent.
I will say that if you're Astralis as scouts, you probably do have a close eye on Ecstatic, Sashi, and maybe GamerLegion for the sake of Torsen, perhaps, possibly.
Maybe.
If you want to try and explore your options in terms of just finding a new fifth, because, again, like you say, there probably is a few questions to answer for in the very near future for Astralis.
Well, that's the thing about Astralis, is historically they don't have an eye on literally anybody. So the only people that they've picked up as talents has come from other players on the current roster recommending those players directly. It's not, there's no management behind it.
That's fair. So I always think in terms of the football manager terms, it's like, what would I do in this situation? Is like, yeah, I would be keeping my eyes on them. Well, Astralis, I don't know. I hope they are. Never know. Maybe new management has come in and installed some new elements. I don't know. It's too early to tell for that. I'm just hoping that, that they're going to do something more, because I think that it's a bit of a crying shame where Astralis have been for the last God knows how many years. At least they're on the upward trajectory. I just don't know if that upward trajectory is going to continue for much longer in the near future.
Yeah. Eternal shush debates and conversations, I'm sure, will be had as well. If they could afford him, would they have him instead of Magisk? Hard to imagine they wouldn't. But you never know. Sometimes players don't like teams and they refuse to join them. That's always a potential reality. But Jay, we are back to you on the picks. You do have a favourite slot open, 2 underdog slots open. A few different ways you can go with this one. Who do you like the look of?
Good question. One favourite, 2 underdogs. Let's go with underdog, I think. That'll be fun. I'm going to go ahead and pick into Bait. I think I like Bait quite a lot, and not just because they gave me my big moment over the year. I really do like this team. Like, I think that they've got something about them that just it transcends where I'm usually at in the tier 2 environment. I'm always watching the tier 2 teams, and I was watching Bait kind of work their way through the online cups and the Blast Bounties qualifiers, whatever it is that you were seeing them in. And I think that their whole rise to the major has given them like a leg up above the rest of the tier 1.5 that has now enabled them to sort of stay away from the grind. And so they're a little bit unpredictable in that sort of sense. But I was watching Star Series. I thought they looked all right during Star Series, in particular the lower bracket run, where they took down some teams that I think actually had a bit of a chance to actually go better than them. I've been really liking what OG were doing. They got eliminated by Bay. I like what Gentlemates have been doing. They got eliminated by Bay. Passion UA, I thought there was potential there. They got eliminated by Bay. I really enjoyed their run at Star Series, and I think that there's much how I've talked about Furia earlier and having momentum coming out of that particular LAN. I think there's momentum to come into Pro League here as well. I think a lot of teams might sleep on Bay. I think that they've gotten a little bit better since where we saw them at the major.
Ooh, Yumi. Bait's always an interesting team to discuss.
We've talked about him a bit.
Yeah, what's real, what's fake, what's a mirage? What is there to actually hold on to when you look at the team play? Have you been impressed by their recent run?
It's weird because I think VRS is perfect for teams of Bait's ilk. Better than a lot of other teams in the circuit, but also just not good enough to punch up very often. I'd put them very comfortably on the cusp of tier 1, but until they can reliably beat anybody that's actually within that bracket, I will not hold out for this team. I think I've been let down too many times by when they've been in finals or they've been in late stages of tournaments where they have been the favorites and they should be the winners, and they've crumbled, they've genuinely gone missing. I think there's honestly probably a mentality issue on this team. If I'm being realistic, I don't think it's a talent issue necessarily, but it does sometimes feel like the roster lets themselves down a lot. So I'm not that convinced by Bait. I think they have stagnated a lot. Like, we actually saw genuine progression for a while with them, and now VRS has sort of artificially made them look like they're rising up again because they're within the major invite territory. And I just don't rate them that highly. I expect them to go to that major and probably like leave 1 and 3 or 2 and 3, and will just be once again thoroughly whelmed by Bait's performance.
I will say that if you were asking me this question, or if you put in this conversation to me during stage 2, then I'm singing a very different tune. Because I think the Bait are still good enough to make it through. I think it's more like a 3-2 sort of run in this Swiss stage. But I don't see them making like a playoff run at Pro League. I see them going out 0-3 in stage 2. It's more just considering the rest of the field of competition that we have within the context of this event. I think that they can usurp a lot of the underdogs that we have, especially the out of region teams. So I feel like that's part of the reason why I'm sort of picking Bait, just again ranking them compared to the rest of the level of field. I think that they're a lot better than people might initially entertain. You are right about the mentality thing, though. That probably is something I was a bit remiss to mention. Yeah, there are some times where they will crumble. I hope that doesn't happen at a big event like this. If it does, though, then maybe that is a bit of a preview for what's happening during the major as well.
I think with the advantage that Bait have, though, is that this is a very upsettable favorites category. So, like,
that's true as well. Yes,
Furia, G2, Astralis are the 3 teams that I'd say are like quote unquote protected from it, but you know, everybody else is very, very open game.
Bait are a roster who always seem to be capable of upsetting everyone in terms of just winning best of 3s. They can just do it. They can just go out there and do it. They are talented, 1 through 5, and it's actually kind of absurd. It's just they are also very capable of like those mental struggles, just getting in their own head and completely capitulating and losing games they should win. Now, most of the time, that's in terms of like on this map, they were up 10-5, and then 2 rounds went the wrong way that were pretty important, and then all of a sudden, bang, they lose 13-10. Like they tend
to get
to
MR12'd.
They get MR12'd in like, the third map of a BO3, and you're like, come on, lads. You should be winning this one as well. But at the same time, I can't use that as my main point of detraction, because I admit openly, this team could just go 3-0. Like, they are capable of that kind of fluke. And it's so common with them that it's not really a fluke. They are capable of matching up with people and just beating them. Throwing Kensies all through 100 smokes eventually just sometimes beats someone. That is a reality. And I have had questions about things like their playstyle, things like how they use a player like Kensizo in terms of the volume of opening attempts he takes, how aggressive he is relative to, how some of the other pieces feel. Like, Alex feels like he's going to close rounds. NPL feels like he wants to take opening fights on the CT sides, but only if it's safe. And like, he's very set up and calculated. And there's just this one guy who dies on the team. And I'm always like, do we have to have this? Like, is there no other way? Is there no more balanced way to build your T sides? But no, Bait are upset material. As in, there's a very good chance they upset at least 2 of the favorites here, just in terms of pure seeding. And in terms of recent form as well, they're probably not even that crazy of an upset when they go out and they beat the likes of a GamerLegion, of a Virtus Pro, hell, of a 3D Max. Recently, those teams have not been impressive. And Bait, they were going to be disappointed by the fact they finished 3rd at Star Ladder just because of that opening loss to PariVision. But overall, they took down some teams in the sort of mid-20 range in the world that they should be quite happy with, and that honestly stronger than many of the underdogs here. So all things are pointing positive for them. It's just we've been burned by this team a few times on this show. People who've picked them expecting bigger things, been disappointed in the end because the talent doesn't always translate. The mental capitulation happens. That's my fear. They're boom or bust. But that could be very good for you if you're picking an underdog. Yumi.
Yeah.
If you've got more to say it now, but otherwise you've got back-to-back picks.
Essentially, I was just going to make a stupid joke about they either upset the teams or they upset us. There's no in between.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That is fair enough. But yeah, you got back-to-back picks. Who'd you like the look of?
I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start in the underdog category because I'm gonna pick one from favorites as well. I think I'm picking TNL.
Nice.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
Because it was between probably TNL and HOTU for me in terms of the value underdog pick. And I see the comments from Mo about how many points they should get if they beat Furia, and I just think that's loser's mentality. He thinks he should get more than 55 points for beating Furia. One, you're not beating Furia. I refuse to also pick the team that is playing Furia in the first round. But you're not beating Furia, and if you do, I will be very disappointed. But also, don't go begging out here for points. I know you want to make the major. It's not happening this season. Unlucky. I want to bank in on TNL mainly because I think there's a lot of potential, maybe not necessarily for this team to succeed and blaze through the rankings in the future, but there are pieces on this team that are genuinely very, very impressive, just in terms of raw output, like individual decision making. Like their micro looks really, really solid. To have like Davi, Knife, Cairn, this is like a trio that can really fuck over a lot of teams. And I think this is a weak enough field where I expect to see some of that star power translate for them. You know, if we were looking at more teams of, you know, maybe Astralis's level, if 3D Max necessarily were running in with a full 5, I would say that they may lock out potential qualification out of this stage. But I think I want to believe that they can beat a team like GamerLegion, like Legacy, like LynnVision. I think there are teams that are very vulnerable to a lot of that stopping power that TNL can bring. They're very stop-start. You know, they play to a different tempo than I think a lot of other teams in the circuit as well, which is, I think, going to benefit them in these types of matchups as well.
Yeah, TNL's a team I did a lot of demo study on. Really want to get grips on how they play, the players they have, and I found a very unique style. Like, it was a heavy barrage approach, basically. They're going to hit you hard, they're going to hit you fast, they're going to hit you over and over again, with a lot of time the same thing, to just condition you to getting used to getting pummeled just in one direction, and then they might throw in a few counters, a few other rotations. It's a very simplistic form of conditioning, but it works, and it works because, as their IGL put it so eloquently, when you have Ken and Davi, you know, it's like having a minigun or machine gun. It's just do, as he put it. It just kind of works like that. So yes, firepower-wise, it is a thing that can be very effective, and you'll see him like make calls and make little reads. I think are pretty smart, like pretty high level for a guy who's like 20, 21. I think still pretty young for an IGL, pretty fresh to this role as well. I've been fairly impressed with a lot of different things on this team. Now, look, if I have to be hypercritical in terms of what I don't like or do like in this roster, I think they could do with an AWP upgrade. And being Ukrainian, they should be able to do it. Now, I've heard they are also getting picked up by a different org in the coming sort of weeks/months. So maybe that bigger org will have also deeper pockets to go and get them an AWP upgrade if they'd want to. Just not that sold on Flyrax myself, but hell, everything about the rifling on this team has impressed me. Knifey is a great value player in terms of, you know, the roles he plays, yet still delivers time and time again. Obviously, the aggressive duo that I've already mentioned are fantastic. You know, two of the highest rated riflers in Tier 2 consistently over the last 6 months. I'm really impressed with this team. I like them. I do think their style's a bit too simple, and it will get them punished when they face better teams and obviously just get more reps into sort of that level of game where people are actually going to watch it. People are actually going to take it seriously. But for now, yeah, they could still be a very interesting upset pick. I like it.
I've got a couple of issues with TNL. First of all, their LAN performances are not always there. I feel LAN is where the style comes undone. I'm not sure what it is, but I look back at that BetClick event that they had recently, and they lost pretty handily to Big, showing virtually nothing at all. And then I remember back at the Glitch Masters event, everyone was looking at that one saying, "Oh, this should be TNL going for a pretty easy win," and they didn't do that either. And now I'm taking a look at more of their online results recently. And I think that what you're saying there, KingT, is actually holding up to be rather true, because they've been getting obviously a leg up because they were top 30 at VRS at a certain point, and they've been getting these invites to the later stages of the online cups. And I feel like they're getting found out because they're taking losses that they shouldn't be taking. They're finding runs that are actually ending up losing them points in terms of VRS. And I think that, as you say earlier, it's simple enough to where I think the better teams are going to figure them out. And I feel like the better teams are going to start to understand. And I think already some of the lesser teams have already started to understand where TNL's weaknesses really are. And that's my main issue with going with them. I had to think about whether I put TNL or Bait above one or the other is like the better of the Ukrainian sides here. But that's the reason why I went with Bait above TNL. Because there's a trend that's starting to move against TNL's direction, and I think that that's going to show itself here at Pro League. I have a bad feeling that this run might not be as fantastical as people might want it to be, or that we might expect it to be.
So all I want is a bit of punch. I'm not expecting them to out-mastermind anybody. I'm not expecting them to outbrain anyone. I want them to just go in with punch and flavor.
Well,
that
Yumi, that's
do.
great and all, but if I punch and you lean that way and you use my balance to go over, then you win that fight. You know, that's what I'm saying. That's what TNL is. They have the punch, no doubt about that. But if they get sidestepped, they're going over.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's maybe a lack of balance, but again, my hopes for this team maybe not even necessarily to do great things. I just think if and when they upset 3D Max, it won't be that much of a surprise.
3D Max are, yeah. They feel so upsettable, don't they? They just
they're
so
playing with
upsettable.
Navera at this event. Like
on top of everything else, yeah. On top of all the other problems.
Into that pick.
Yeah, I can't wait for someone to pick them. It ain't gonna be me.
We're running out of options, lads.
Slowly, yeah.
And to be honest, as I was looking at the underdogs and looking at the favorites, I did just think, man, I don't know if I should leave this team in the underdog category, because I think there's more waffle that I can put towards favorites later. So I'm going to go for an underdog instead. And I'm going for LynnVision. They're not the best team in China. They're not, unfortunately. Tyloo are. But LynnVision are not that far behind. They look tactically better with Sue. Like, Starry is sporadic, but good enough at times. And they have a very strong in-game leader fragger in Westmelon. Zacker's in more of his traditional roles by AWPing and not trying to play filler essentially to the rest of the roster. And Amelia is genuinely, he actually might be playing the best Counter-Strike of his career, like in terms of how smart he's being and how much he seems to energize the team. Like, this guy used to show up on LAN and look like the quietest guy there, also do the least in the server. Now he's being proactive and screaming all the time. So I don't know what's changed in his brain chemistry, but he seems to be there, and it's doing a lot for the team. And I just like the arc that the LynnVision side are going under. They have had some pretty bad losses lately, but they are playing up against higher level teams than they typically do, and it will take them time to acclimatize. The advantage Tyloo always had was that they were the best core in China for a long time under like Advent and they had Kaze back when this Jamyoung, Mercury, Mosea trio was there. They actually got a lot of opportunities to face top level teams and get high quality practice in. LynnVision are starting to pass that curve now, and I think they're going to be further inspired with how much their counterparts seem to be doing in the Mongols and Tyloo. So I'm hoping that the rising tide is actually raising all ships here. It's just LynnVision are lagging behind, but they are still rising, just at a much slower pace.
Oof. Not a pick I would have liked to have made. Let's put it that way. I mean, I might have made it. I might have taken them, given some of the other options at this point left in the underdogs. But I wouldn't have been very happy about it, just because, well, Jay, I'm not sure you saw this, but Fisher, Playground, they went 0-3. They didn't take a map. They got 2-zipped by VP. I mean, that shook me. I lost a lot of faith in LynnVision after that. I don't know about you, but for me, that was a big loss.
I mean, it was. I try and be as total in my sort of assessment of the teams, though. And I'm also thinking that, well, obviously, Fisher wasn't exactly a great run, but we also had that Perfect World event where they were able to beat Bait. And so if there's one example to counter my earlier points about Bait in LynnVision's favor is what they did in that best of 3. I mean, they had some pretty one-sided maps. So they had Bait figured out and beaten, and maybe that could also be down to the fact of what we discussed about Bait earlier on. I honestly don't watch too much of the Asian stuff. It's just not within my purview. So I at least respect the pick from Yumi. I just there's something that comes to mind when I'm thinking about the Asian teams, and I remember hearing it on I think it was Talking Counter or something, and this concept that one of the reasons why a team like LynnVision can't progress is because they go back to China and then they're scrimming against all the teams that are obviously not as good as they can be. And so my big concern about LynnVision is more in the future, because I feel like that they might end up getting stagnant if they don't spend some serious time in Europe playing against European teams. I think that they've definitely shown that potential off, but I think that if they can't get the improvements together, then I think more of what we've seen from Fisher may crop up in an event like Pro League at the same. I think that certainly if they go to stage 2, they will get 0-3'd. I'm a bit in and out on LynnVision for stage 1 though.
Yeah, I think they're a team that I think I like the risk, though. Like, where I'm looking at it, I look at the individuals they have on the team. At least I can depend on some of this firepower to show up on LAN. Like, I've seen Starry play well on LAN recently. Like, even in that VP loss, he still put up really strong performances. I've seen it out of Zaka and Westmelon for a long time. Entirely correct that Amelia has been playing some of his best CS. Like, he's been really strong. I think this is a team that has the firepower to at least have a chance to fight their way out. Unlike Rooster, because just going to shout them out here. Not going to talk about them at any point in the show, I'm assuming. Just not seeing it happening. So I do like them as an underdog pick in that sense. For me, it's just difficult, given their recent performances, to really have that much faith in them. But in this field, I think it is probably a fair enough sort of decision. Like, this is a roster relative to the other picks available. We at least have that chance to make it out. But I don't know.
I think part of my conundrum here was that I haven't really been watching the games where NRG's been winning. Can't really make many comments on them, even if
game singular.
Oh well,
there's only one that's
yes.
mattered, really, hasn't there?
Sorry, yes, the game. But I haven't been watching the games that they've been winning. I haven't really been keeping up with Fluxo because they're not even like the 4th best team in South America, really.
Yeah.
And Rooster, I'm not picking them at all. So I felt like my options became very limited once I really thought about it for more than 2 seconds. So yeah, Lynn are the choice. Lynn are the choice. And I think just to comment on what you're saying about teams going back to their regions to compete, I think that's also the limitation that FlyQuest, for example, have in that they're not really, from my understanding, they weren't really practicing when they had Dexter. Like, Regali would still be in Europe, and then they'd sort of convene at events, and the practice was kind of strung out because they had to go event to event, and when they did get time to practice, it wasn't very productive. So I think there are some teams that struggle with the dynamic of, Counter-Strike is centralized in Europe, and that's the highest quality practice you can get is here. And not every team is going to deep dive into their pockets to make that work. Like, LynnVision as well are not a hyper expensive org. Like, Westmelon has spent his whole career there. He was brought up as like a 17-year-old onto the roster. He's now the 24-year-old in-game leader. They have tried to build a team from the ground up. I think they have succeeded in doing so, but there are things you have to do to scale further into the market, and it's probably right. There needs to be either further investment or there needs to be real considerations about long-term relocation so that the team actually can improve properly.
Yeah, fingers crossed they can get that in. They certainly have the talent to really climb up, and
Oh,
that's never been a shortage of the talent in Asia, really. That's mechanical talent, especially. Like, there's always been almost a surplus. So, yeah, we'll see what they can achieve. Jay, we're back to you, though, in the 2 slot with another pick. You've got one favorite slot, one underdog slot. Technically, still some choices on the board.
Yeah. See, my strategy's gone out the window now, lads. So I might have to start spitballing a little bit. A favorite and an underdog.
Ultimately, waffle about what you feel you can waffle about.
How much can I bullshit my way through the next pick? Jesus Christ. I mean, I could just be a troll and pick something like 3D Max and just let that sit there, but that might ruin my chances.
It's okay. We don't mind. We'll allow you to do it.
Nah, I'm going to go into a favorite of GamerLegion, I think, for my next one. I'm very, very weird about. I mean, I'm a weird about a lot of the teams here. Like, as you say, it's a very upsettable team, or a very upsettable sort of field of teams, and GamerLegion are among that almost exclusively for me because they've made a roster change, and I think that always throws a little bit of doubt into whether the team is going to recover from that. I don't think they're in a very good place prior to the change because they were going out early in a lot of the top level competitions that they were playing in. I think the foundations certainly are solid, but they are solid enough to train talents and then eventually pass them on to bigger and better squads. So in terms of long-term success, I'm not sure where I feel GamerLegion are going to end up. I at least have some faith in Ash's scouting and that if they've picked up Hypex, that he's got something about him because he's done that several times over. I will also say that it also hasn't 100% worked because Kersey didn't work and Slen didn't work. They're sat on the bench, and I haven't, much like how with Molodoy when he was picked up at Furia, I wasn't certain at the time. I haven't seen enough from Hypex for me to go definitely he is the definitive answer.
Yeah, there's not been a lot of, in terms of the recruitment on rifles, it's been outstanding. That's basically my takeaway right now with Ash is like, if he picks up a rifle, even if I never thought of them as like the next guy, the player to pick up, he's probably done a good job. He's probably nailed it. Towson kind of proved that. Rez as well to a lesser extent. Like, he knows what he's doing. The fact that he got Kios to a major final, I mean, need I elaborate? The guy can make miracles with riflers. On the AWP, there's been a lot more misses than hits, unfortunately. And that's just the way it is. He got a decent amount of A-core. I think he thought he could, like, find each one of these sort of AWPers, like, special sort of zones, which they need to operate to really find their impact. Like, he thought he could unlock all of them. Unfortunately, it's just not worked out. Slend was supposed to be better than he was on the team. That was the biggest question mark in terms of, like, I had a lot of tape of him dominating at a level that was below. Like, I couldn't believe in it. But Kersey never liked what I saw in Gen 1, and Musketeers and whatever the hell else he played on. And Hypex, there was no excitement around this guy. Like, none. And even when I have seen people have come into my chats on livestream, be like, I watched the demos. I don't see anything, do you? And I'm like, I'm not even bothered. Like, I'm just not even bothered yet. Like, that's where I'm at, where I've got so many other things just clogging up my priorities. I haven't even got to Hypex on GamerLegion. Like, what could he be? So this is a real suspicious, dubious pick. But thankfully, GamerLegion been capable of beating everyone without an AWPer anyway. They did it with Slend. They did it with Kersey. They had good results. They had good wins. Time and time again, so I'm not that bothered. Like, it'd be great if they got a real AWPer in, but with or without one, that doesn't seem to be the problem.
I think where I come down on this is that it can only be an improvement. Like, Slend genuinely wasn't that bad if we're comparing him to Kersey. Like, Slend actually wasn't that bad compared to Kersey, in my opinion. Like, if I'm talking about actual impact in the game, Slend had more impact. Now, statistically, he may have fallen behind, but I saw Kersey as a downgrade if I'm in the grand scheme of things, and I do think there was probably a part of this that just said, hey, we need to just find another AWPer, and they just combed through the rankings looked at each AWPer individually and then settled on one. So, the fact they ended up going as far down as BetClick is perhaps an indictment on what potential reach they have. But I actually expect GamerLegion to see improvements immediately. I have seen some games of Hypex. Again, I've not been like terribly impressed in terms of him being like a dominant AWPer, but I don't see AWPers in that way currently. I think there's a lot of AWPers that do just currently occupy the exist and close rounds segment on teams, and that genuinely should be enough with the rifles that they have on this GamerLegion roster. So that'll do. For me, this'll do for now.
This'll do. Yeah, what a way to recruit AWPers. Especially, but the problem I have with that is just I look at teams who have got AWPers who do stuff, and I'm like, you can do more. You can just do more. Like sure, I get that AWPers do thrive quite often in the late round, but doesn't mean they shouldn't be active mid. They shouldn't be active early. They shouldn't just be nade dispensers. Like, that shouldn't just be their roles. And we've seen, with the Furia example, if you get an AWPer who's just genuinely good all the time, you can really transform your prospects from kind of dire to winning titles. So I do think there are more ambitious AWPer moves to make. The fact that they couldn't make one happen, especially around the time they got Kersey, there was talk of them trying Molodoy, there was talk of them trying Grix. Got neither one. Now, we're not sure how much of that is how much they wanted them or how much other teams...
The other teams offered, yeah.
Yeah, offered, but at the same time, it's strange to me that they're here, really, that they're in this situation trying again with just a random deep pull from kind of out of nowhere in the tier 2 space. Like, this is not a player anyone expected to be making this kind of jump, but here we are, and we're trying again. And I'm not sure, Yumi, you're very confident that they're just going to magically be so much better, replacing Kersey with Hypex. I don't see it as a guarantee, but if he can replicate what the little Slend was doing, why the hell not?
I think the fact that Yumi says it'll do, I think is perfectly summarizing as to what we think the long-term prospects of Hypex will actually end up being. Like, yeah, you probably are right of it being an improvement on Kersey, but so could anything else. If it's a band-aid solution, it better be a small bleed, because if it's an arterial wound, you're done. So, let's hope that it will do. Let's just hope that that's true.
Yep, fingers crossed. All right, we're back to my back-to-back picks. Oh, God. And I've got to fill out my pick sheet with this set of superstars. I don't know how to call it. Ooh. I might start...
Okay.
What's up?
Before you make your pick, can I just say, shout out all these tier 1 teams as well, by the way. Just looking at BetClick and just going like, yeah, you know what? We're going to steal 2 of the best players on that roster statistically. Jacob, you're gone. You're off to FaZe. And Hypex, you don't want to stick around that team anymore. Like, who are your teammates now? What? Diha? In 2025? Demho? Prism? Nah, get out of there, brother.
Yeah, not ideal, is it? Not ideal at all. Oh God, I'm seeing if I start typing out the timestamp, if it just inspires me, if it just like, oh, you definitely want to say, and just
you're
can't
like halfway
do it.
Like the universe is just going to autofill it in for you.
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm hoping for.
Looking for a sign. I mean, we are much like with your guest this week. We are scraping the bottom of the barrel. So, like,
hey,
I asked no one else before I asked you, so that's not true.
Bullshit.
Oh no, for real. I've got my first pick this week. I've got my first pick next week. So it is what it is. Very happy with my scheduling skills this week. I am. I'm still desperately searching for a sign. I'm torn. Basically, I'm going to tell you what's happening right now. I'm torn between my favorite picks, so I want to delay having to pick out of that group as much as possible. And I'm just looking at Heroic and think, do I trust those Swedes to be good in this field? When I saw some promise in the previous event they played? Or do I go full fucking crackhead, full French, and just go, peut-être, maybe, 3D Max, Nivera. It could work. He's been kind of good in Tier 3 when he's played in these mixed teams, when he's been asked to just go, play make. He's been good. I almost feel like I just can't, though. Like, seeing the way they lost, also that ceiling, seeing the way they won. I'm taking 3D Max. Screw it. Screw it. All of that umming and ahhing. I swear
Almost
I'm
talked
not
yourself
throwing.
out of it.
Almost did. But then I remembered they beat Mongols. What am I doing? They beat the Mongols 2-1. How could I not pick 3D Max? Now, the whole Nivera stand-in situation is one of the big issues. Because it was already a kind of a weird time to be on 3D Max with the change of IGL off of Maka onto Gravity. Now, Maka's just got a family thing. Not going to speculate about what that is, but whatever. He's got a family thing. So we've got Nivera as a stand-in, one of the most talented francophones we've ever had. Like, raw talent, he's up there. Like, he's crazy talented. In terms of the role he should play on a team, it's always been kind of nebulous. First, he was a substitute. And then he's been sort of a rifling playmaker, closer. Then he's been an AWPer. And then he was an AWPer whilst also playing with Kersey and AWPed on the T side more than he AWPed on the CT side. It was so weird, that Musketeers team. Everything about Nivera has been strange in terms of his career. The fact that he went to Valorant, that's just a strange thing to do, man. It's just a weirdo thing to do. Why would you go play Valorant? Weird. But...
money.
True, but the talent has always been evident. Like, raw talent, he's got it. He's able to make plays. He's able to win clutches. He's able to outplay, out-aim, and just be better than other players. That's the reason I'm going to take a flyer on this. Because this could be one of those, like, giga brain, holy crap, no one believed sort of moves. No one believed sort of picks. They took a Nivera stand-in through to the playoffs at stage 2. Yeah, we'll continue that narrative in the next video, I'm sure. After they go 3-0 here, upset everyone, and devastate all of your picks. I think 3D Max, they are in a genuinely scary place right now in terms of who they can beat and who they can lose to. And I'm just getting on board the roller coaster. Like, take me through. Like, there's not even a seatbelt on this. I might get launched from it and splatter to my death. But at the same time, it'll be the most fun I've ever had if I make it out alive. So 3D Max, favorite pick. Why the hell not?
So for a bit of background, like you said, he kind of came in as like a nebulous... First came on to Vitality as a 6-man. And this was the guy that they brought in on maps like Dust 2 because ZywOo wanted to move away from AWPing. That was the justification, is that ZywOo didn't want to AWP all the time. He felt weighed down by the AWP. And so they started bringing in Nivera into the team during the whole 6-man roster era. Now, that's a lot of confidence for a team like Vitality to give. ZywOo, at the time, top 1, top 2 player in the world. And if you're going to try and replace his roles on maps where an AWP can dominate, that's a lot of confidence from an organization. Now, he didn't live up to that. He didn't have the staying power. Like you said, he went to Valorant. He's done a whole bunch. I did not watch the Mouseketeers or whatever the fuck. I did not watch Foot and whatever events they played. It is still very strange.
Yeah, by the way, he didn't actually play a HLTV official with Foot. Like, the Foot thing was just a weird sort of... He was there, then he wasn't.
Didn't Foot go to Epic? I feel like Foot went to Epic.
That's not HLTV play, man.
No, I know, but they didn't make it to playoffs. Is the thing,
yeah, because they got default hunted, and then they broke up after that. So
yeah,
UK CS is now killing French CS, so the disease spreads, lads.
Hey, show up to your games on time.
The war has never ended. The old enemy's still at it.
How dare they go for lunch or whatever they were doing at the time? Yeah, 3D Max have been kind of capitulating, and now they find themselves with a stand-in. This is the weirdest time to pick them.
It's exactly the right time.
But it might be a time, I suppose. I have nothing really more to add. I've not watched Nivera since he's come back to Counter-Strike, so I actually cannot even comment on like his individual, like my eye test on him, if he's making good or bad choices, if he's having impact in games. I haven't watched, and I will watch a little, I suppose, at this Pro League, but I just imagine this 3D
You're going
Max
to watch
is-
a lot. Don't worry. They're making stage 2. They're going to be competitive.
I just don't believe that. I just don't believe. I can't believe it.
Scream's cousin's going to wreck all of your dreams. There you go. That's going to be the headline of the video, by the way. When I make the demo review eventually of him dropping 30 against your favorite team, I'm going to call him Scream's cousin just for the clicks.
Why don't you say Nevera's cousin is still on the bench?
Not bad. I'm just thinking what to add here. I will say that I at least appreciate the graft from 3D Max in terms of trying to min-max all the VRS points that they can and picking tier 2 events to get the prize purse as opposed to risking it and losing points at the tier 1 level. I respect that particular approach. I think it opens up a wider conversation of should that even be a thing, considering the intentions of VRS. And I think that in the long term, and maybe even in the short term, now that, as you say, they are starting to collapse, that they're going to get, it's not going to, the strategy is not going to pay off for them. And going into tier 1 events like Pro League, it's very difficult to justify looking at 3D Max and saying that they're in a good place. I think that I think that there's a good chance that they are probably the one of the main favorites that are going to dip out during stage 1. And I think that that's probably the stand-in obviously doesn't help the situation, but I think that that's very indicative to the approach that they've taken to the wider CS circuit.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, love it. This sets it all up even better. The montage, the highlight reel, when Nivera actually does drop 30 on everyone's favorite teams. You know, it's going to be full of naysayers. You know how the montages go, just like nothing but shitting on them. They're ready to collapse. One of the favorites most likely to lose in the stage 1. Yeah, it's going to be glorious. It's going to be glorious.
Or you could just do the whole thing with the Fort Minor track where you just play it and it's just 0 kills and that's the end of the frag movie.
We'll see what comes true. We'll see what comes true. I do have another pick. I still don't like where I'm at with the underdogs that I have to pick from, but hey, at least I'm not picking last. Because, Jay, I hate to see how you're going to justify
I backed
these
myself.
picks afterwards.
I did this last time as well. I backed myself into a corner thinking about my picks, and I think I might have fucked it again. So
yeah, so let's see who I can take off your list. I don't think NRG are the highest rated of these teams. Like, I don't have them highest rated of these teams. I like the Sonic edition. I don't think that was a bad addition, but I just don't think they're the best of these teams. I find it hard to believe they are, because they play in NA. You know, I am good. Screw it. I'm going to go with the team who have been whining. The team I thought who could open up with the upset win. Like, just in terms of there's a cheeky chance they might do it. I'm going to take HOTU. You know, first time on the show, first time getting picked. Congratulations, you actually got selected. You have escaped Club Rooster. This is a roster that is just kind of fine across the board. Like, when I watch them play, I'm like, oh, who's the clear main star of this team? Sometimes it's Duke Fissura. Sometimes it's like Frontales. I mean, recently Norbert's been really like impactful for them. But overall, it's just a team of kind of solid tier 1.5 to tier 2 players, like really roughly in that region, who just keep getting wins. Like, they just keep grinding out wins. They just won European Pro League over Sashi. You know, they're 5th, 6th in the Challenger League Cup. They've just been a solid tier 2 side recently. So I don't think there's a chance they even make it out of the best of 3 Swiss. Like, I don't think they make it 3-2. I think at best they're a 2-3 team. But again, look, I picked a chaotic team in my favorites. You know, a roller coaster with no seatbelt. This team is more like, I don't know, buying ice cream from a shop that also sells steak and also sells pizza. Like, I don't think it's going to be good, but it might just hit the spot in the moment. It might have just been the right thing for me at that time. It's not so much about how good they are, it's just about, taking a chance, and hopefully it works out.
I'd like to just give a small update before I talk about HOTU. It was announced while we were recording this that Inner Circle have picked up TNL. So
that was who it was. I just forgot who the name of the org was when I was talking about it earlier.
So 17 minminutes ago, first challenge is at EPL, new roster.
Did they also buy Yambo?
No.
Damn, well, nothing else changed.
I can't wait to see KingT's attempt to try and edit the new logo into the
I'm
the
not
video.
bothering. I'm not bothering.
Formerly TNL, now Inner Circle. The
It's still going to be
editing
TNL and
reflect this.
timestamps too. I don't care. Too slow in a circle. Too slow.
HOTU, the region abusers. How
Yes.
do I think about them? The thing is, when I've seen them play in Asia, also they're playing with Norbert, I think, right? And
They are.
I'm a big Norbin fan, so this
He's
is
played
tempting.
33 maps with them in 25 days.
I know.
Like, he's been there. He's been active, and they've been winning with him.
And he's been putting up numbers with them
has
as well.
indeed.
So yeah, I do find it hard to go against Norbin time, but I'm not sure about this HOTU team and the rest of the roster really, and where that sort of puts them. You know, I guess I'm concerned that they have basically tried to grift the circuit to get Asia slots and to get Asia VRS, but then because they kept going back to Europe and playing in all these European cups to hustle their ranking, they're still classed as a European team. So I kind of don't know where to fall on them. I find myself struggling pushing past the bias of like they were a team that actively tried to exploit the system, mainly because the classification for Kazakhstan and where they should compete in a region is kind of weird. Like they're kind of between three major regions, and they were told that they had to compete in one that had like very high ping, and they don't want to do that. So yeah, they're in a curious spot. I think the team has firepower. I think they're very explosive when they play against Asian teams, but when I see them play against in the EU circuit, they're just far less decisive. I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed is that they're just far less decisive versus European teams because they expect that there's going to be stacks, or they expect someone's going to be pulling some trick that the Asian teams aren't going to do. And I think the indecisiveness of this roster actually causes them to lose games a lot. So it's the only thing I can really comment on. I'm sure Norbert, I haven't really watched many games since they've had Norbert. So I'm kind of sad to know that he's putting up hella stats, and I'm not there to bear witness. But
yeah, and they're beating European teams too. They beat Incilio, OG, Ruby, Monty, Favbet, Sashi. Like, they're beating some of the biggest names in all of Tier 2 CS. They're ready.
I guess, yeah. Norbert and Frontales, the new power combo of EU.
Yeah, exactly. Love it.
I think the critique I gave to 3D Max could be applied threefold to HOTU. I think that the fact that they are basically backdooring their way to these events in the via the Asian qualifier. Remember, Pro League, they got there, they're here because of the Asia qualifier for Pro League. Astana, they got there because of the Asian qualifier for Astana, and they're mostly competing in Europe because of the CIS European sort of mix and the dynamic there in most of the competition rulebooks. And I think that they haven't, I mean, outside of the ECL run, they haven't exactly lit the world on fire. Like I said earlier, I wasn't exactly thrilled with their Astana run. It was above expectation because their expectation was 0. I think coming into this competition, similar-ish to a certain extent, probably like not complete 0, but I am expecting them not to do all that well, just because of the fact that they are competing against competition that are nowhere near the kind of level that is being played in Pro League, I think.
Yeah, perfectly reasonable. Honestly, don't expect them to do a damn thing, but I don't expect anyone else out of the teams I've picking to do anything either. So, kind of difficult to manage a solid pick in this scenario. But hey, speaking of Jay, you've got the same problem. Who do you prefer?
Unfortunately, I would have actually preferred HOTU over the other underdog picks because at least they've got some European experience. I don't know about the rest of them. Oh, Christ. Oh, Jesus. Am I really about to pick NRG here? Am I really about to pick NRG after all the shit we've given them over the course of this podcast?
But the Rooster's right there, and he's fucking.
Oh, yeah, nah.
They got Terry. He's the Hong Kong oceanic demon.
Oh, Jesus. I think I can bullshit my way through NRG a bit more than I can anybody else. They're going to be my my final underdog pick. Look, they have a win above a European team who are decently well ranked, and that is honestly a lot more than can be said for the likes of Rooster at the very least, and possibly Fluxo to a certain extent. I think the fact that NRG have some experienced elements on the roster is giving them a little bit more of a leg up as well. In terms of an underdog pick, they are definitely very far down the pecking order for me. Because yeah, like they are. I do feel like they're going to get smashed out, but hey, they have a little something in the back pocket. They have that Fragville event. They have that win over NIP. And I think that that might at least be a foundation to build off of for NRG.
I don't hate this. I would have taken NRG over these guys.
I do.
No, you have to just cope a bit. Come on, cope a bit. Look, they beat NIP, who are better than HOTU, better than arguably LynnVision. Like, probably in terms of pedigree, would give them that credit. This is a really, like, impressive win. Just that one win. And you look at the roster, you know, they did what all good North American sides do, which is import Europeans and import non-Americans. You know, they got in Bro. They picked up Sonic from the disaster that was Wildcard. They've made upgrades in that sense, in terms of just making their rifle core stronger. The exotic pickup, for me, is just a bit of a weird one, I guess.
It was kind of a meme at the time as well.
Yeah, just a strange pickup. But look, he's had some good maps against certain teams. He's not really had any good maps against the strongest teams, but he's had some good maps. This is some North American talent. I don't hate it overall. This NRG roster could do something, and by something I mean probably 2-3. 2-3 would be a nice run for them. 1-3 is more likely. They're just a plucky little underdog here. They're one of the more underdoggy underdogs in that sense. Which is like, yeah, a win would be lovely. A win would be almost world beating, really, for this team. So I'm not expecting a lot. But every little will be a huge win. A huge win.
See, I think when we power rank them versus M80, that's where we see like the disparity in what we expect versus where they are in the Valve World rankings. And I think maybe we have to catch ourselves a little bit, because I don't think this is necessarily a bad team. Like, if I really go like player for player, like they're fine. Like I actually rate Bro quite highly. You know, George and Sonic, I have no real issues with them as players. Exotic, I don't know. I haven't like analyzed him too specifically, but like again, you're saying, and I see it. He's putting up solid numbers against some good teams. Like I'm okay with this roster. Like if I'm being genuine about NRG and the brand and like where some of the players in their careers before, this is a good looking North American squad where, you know, for I think Bro in his time on Astralis, people would go, yeah, get that guy out of here. He's a bum. But on NRG, he actually has new legs. Like, he's playing far more aggressively. He's like far higher energy. Maybe he's overcompensating a little bit compared to where he was with Astralis, but I like that. I actually kind of like the energy in NRG, which is, I guess, very stupid to say out loud. But I think this team is fine. I think we're maybe underestimating them based on the fact that VRS has been a little silly with how they've calculated some wins and put them in placements, but they're not. I mean, they're definitely not the worst team in the underdog category. Like, I think on a bad day, LynnVision would look worse than NRG. I think on a bad day, M80 would look comparable to NRG. I think on a bad day, Bait look worse than NRG. You know, I think there are teams that can perform worse than sometimes even the mean that NRG puts out. So,
well, with this field of teams, I mean, you're probably right. My concern when weighing up NRG, and again, this is going antithetical to my whole point and why I've picked them, is just that you look at the totality of their international competition this year, and it's like you've got one win in Pro League in the last season against the Mega, who I think actually a bit overrated these days, I'm not going to lie. And then nothing else outside of that. The Major, you got 2 best-of-1 wins and 0 maps in the 2 best-of-3s during stage 1. It's like when you step up to that level in that format that we're playing in here in this competition, they don't do well, and they don't find the results that they're looking for. And that's really the judgment that I'm making when thinking about NRG here. It's not just because of the comparison to M80, even if that is completely unjustified by VRS standards. I'm also just thinking about the fact that they are NA demons and no more than that.
Yeah, we'll see what comes of it. Yeah, they could be the next M80 in this sense. Like, you know, the underdog NA pick we didn't expect a lot from. You know, we look at the pieces like, oh, I kind of like that guy. That's fine. It's a pretty well built NA roster, actually. And then somehow, boom, it all comes together in perfect harmony. Yumi, you have the last pick of the show, and unlike most shows, the last pick of the show is a favorite. And there's a good reason for that, because nobody really wants to pick between these teams right now. I think that's fair to say. These teams are not in favor. They've not really impressed. Which is your favorite of the three?
I'm just gonna pick Heroic.
Good.
They're...
Correct choice.
Yeah, it's kind of I feel like the best choice of the bunch that I've got remaining. And I wouldn't say that the stars are necessarily giving me the output that I want on this team. If people are being funny and they go, haha, young stars on the team, he's so good. He's, you know, since the transition and the role swaps and, you know, since the roster moves, hasn't looked the strongest. They have brought back X-Floud, you know, they have Nilo. You know, nobody is really necessarily living up to like star level output. I still think the Grix for Alcarin move may be the stupidest decision that this team has made. And I don't know why they did it. I'm sure it was a atmosphere or mood thing or something to do with the way they
giant dickhead. Like, it's just the only way.
Yeah. If it's not that, and it was purely from like a strategy standpoint, I do think you have to accommodate players of a high enough caliber. I think you just do. You have to change the way that you play to make those players shine. And their stubbornness to not do that, I think, is maybe what sets them back a few months. But I think overall, you know, when I see them in rifle rounds where they don't have to worry about an AWP, they're usually okay. I'll be honest, they're usually okay. Like their set pieces, their map control takes are fine, and people play their roles pretty firmly. So I don't think Heroic are necessarily a bad choice. I do just think this team feels like it has a very firm ceiling above them that I don't see any of these players breaking through at the moment. Just the way that they're composed doesn't feel right.
Yeah, the ceiling's more made of brick than glass. Let's put it that way. It's in regards to the Grix and Alcarin thing. Like, I wonder how much of the decision-making process was not dictated but influenced by the previous issues that Heroic have had as an organization with roster moves. Because remember, that they're not taking the time to facilitate moves around the big player in this context, but they did before. Stowan and Yavi did get their way, and then Heroic got burned in both regards. I do think obviously that's a one-off sort of incident, but like, if you're traumatized in that sense, maybe management is saying they're going, maybe we just stick with the boys that we have had already, the loyalists in that respect. And I think in this context, it is a bad idea to make. I have no insights as to what is happening behind the scenes at that team. I will say that at least in terms of the pick, I would put Heroic above VP because VP have been dreadful, and I think when it comes down to this stage in the show, I think at this point you probably got the best of the lowers here.
Here's the hypothetical I've just crafted in my head. If I have to swap this Kazakhstani AWPer for another one in the circuit that's not Volodoy, if I have to swap him for Icy, is Heroic better?
God. Fucking hell.
I am.
Sophie had an easier choice than this. I don't care. Like, what are you talking about?
Would Heroic improve with Icy? And I actually want to say yes, but not by much.
So it depends which Icy you're getting, though. If we're getting the Icy from VP, probably not. And I will say, by the way, VP, I don't know what it is. They keep taking these talents from tier 2 and utterly destroying them. Flammus has been should have been an improvement. He wasn't. Icy should have been an improvement. He wasn't. If you're getting the one that seemed to look decent during the Amcal days, then maybe. I think it depends, really. I think it depends.
See, I don't know that I would extend talent to Icy. He was acceptable prior to VP, and he is unacceptable now in VP.
That's what I'm saying, though. That's
yeah.
what I'm saying. Like he was in at one point. I talked about man of the tier 2 atmosphere, and now he's just dog shit. Like I don't know what it is that VP do, but they take these talents and waste them, and it's starting to piss me off just a little bit.
Yeah,
just a little bit.
Yeah, having Flammus stuck in purgatory is the real pain here.
Yes, yes.
But anyway, let's address this heroic pick for a second. I was torn between 3D Max and heroic. That was kind of where I was at, and the reason I would have liked to have picked heroic is we saw Nilo in his first event as the real star of the team. Like, there's no Tanir, everything's settled. He gets to take his fights, he gets to, play his positions. And on CT sides, he fucking wrecked everyone. He absolutely wrecked people at Playground. There was no two ways about it. Like, they weren't a good team at Playground, but he individually destroyed people. And now, their T sides looked horrific. No one was able to find any sort of purchase. Nothing worked. Map control, nada. Lurks, not really. Did the AWP find a lot of picks? Hell no. Just nothing really worked on the T side. But CT side, Nilo was shredding people. So that's a positive. If you want to say, like, coming into this event, I need something to work for this team in order to get them over the line, to get them wins. Nilo looks ready to go. Looks like he could be that Swedish star that everyone hoped he would be. My problem with this team, obviously, right now is xCloud hasn't magically returned to his pre-removal form. Like, right towards the end of his tenure in the first season, he was getting better. He was finding his groove, making fewer mistakes, finding more kills. It was looking good. He hasn't gone back to that. Alcaren has been as mid as prophesized. By me, specifically, because I was forced to do a full prospects episode on the guy, and I was just like, came out of it thinking, this ain't it. This really ain't it. And like, unless you get that step up, because he was better on Spirit Academy on LAN, maybe he just has terrible online ping, maybe there's something about his online play that just forces him to be kind of sloppy, whilst also being incredibly restricted in terms of the picks he takes. I was like, maybe there was something about online play versus LAN play, just switched the mentality in his head. Maybe it also allowed him to hit easy shots more comfortably, because he did miss a lot of easy shots online. I was hoping maybe that's the cope you can have if you think this will work. On heroic, it hasn't. It just hasn't. They've played basically only LAN, and he's been forgettable in 90% of the maps. There's been a few glimpses, like a Mirage map against Spirit, where he's actually fine, and that's a part of what allows them to upset that series. But otherwise, he's just not been good enough. So, yeah, the worries I had about this team are still real. I'm still not seeing the change, the development, the uptick that we need to see for this to work. But the parts of the team that are used to be good are still there, in terms of we could still get Linus's calling back, Youngstar, as an anchor, as a sport player, pretty solid. Nilo's good, Linus is good. Like, there's something that could come back. But for now, the problems have been too much for the good parts to handle, and they're just frustratingly average.
Yeah, I think the point is essentially that, they look fine from like the way that they're supposed to build into rounds, like from like position and what they're doing, and like with their util, it's all fine and nothing very inspirational or too wildly different. And I think the calling is usually okay. I do just think that players are either breaking past the system, and when things are going wrong, they're even more inspired to do so, because what has not been working hasn't been working, and nobody wants to do the same thing and just die and lose rounds the same way all the time. I do think there is maybe not like they're not trying to usurp or undermine the team, but I do think that they maybe run dry of ideas quite quickly, and when things aren't going wrong, I think they do spiral for heroic a little bit. So it's partially probably due to a confidence thing. Whether or not Nilo or xCloud or Youngstar can put up numbers on the rifle is one thing, but they know they have to make up for deficits in other areas. Like, Linus is not going to carry you through a game. Alcaren is not going to serve as a proper safety net. When you know you don't have those things behind you, people are going to make more mistakes trying to overcompensate as well.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at. Those are the picks. I mean, hey, I think I've come out okay. I need to. I need this to go well after the way things have gone. And look, I've thrown some moonballs up there. Like, I've taken some long shots. Hopefully Malik Neighbors comes down with one of them. NFL knowers will know what the hell that means. But anyway, I've had some brain rot on the mind. Had to get it out there. Thank you for tuning in. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Thank you again to EternalJay for joining us and giving us his insights. I know it was difficult. Push through the pain.
Insights.
Push through the pain. Push through the throat injury. Very much appreciative of your time. And yeah, leave a comment with us, your thoughts on our picks. Sub for more content. Remember that members get access to more content and rights. And yeah, we'll see you next time